Welcome, Bulldog fans, to Kyle Field at College Station, Texas, the home of the 12th man, the home of Texas A&M, the home of the Yell Leaders, the home of traditions, and the site where the Mississippi State Bulldogs walked in tonight and walked out with a 35-14 victory. And Steve, yes, it was only 14-0 at halftime, but once State took control there in second quarter, this is as dominating a road victory as Mississippi State's had since, well, I guess last year's Egg Bowl.
And let's be honest, David, I mean, to be fair to everybody involved, the score is not indicative of how dominant Mississippi State was. I mean, and I'm sure Dan Mullen was probably getting a little impatient because you dominated and you're only up 7-0. You finally get that breakthrough score again to kind of give yourself some breathing room. And then State comes out, gets a 3-and-out, and gets another score. And at that point, it was just a matter of what the final score was going to be.
I'm glad you said 3-and-outs, because at one point Texas A&M was 1 of 7 on third downs. They did come back, completed a couple of third downs, but then State made another stop. The Bulldog defense, they were primed tonight. They know they got embarrassed at Auburn, at Georgia, but those were early big strikes in the game that kind of set them behind the sticks, as you say. Mississippi State's defense came back. They were put in a bad position on the first series on a turnover, a fluke turnover, but they rose up, forced the A&M to punt, and from there on, the Dog defense was as good as we've seen them in a very long time.
It's true, David. And, A&M came out, much like Georgia and Auburn, tried to hit some haymakers early and just missed. One overthrown, had another one dropped. And you really kind of wonder what the tempo of this game would have been had they connected on that early and this crowd had gotten behind them. But this crowd was really uneasy really early in the ball game. They were sitting on their hands. There were times that the Mississippi State crowd and Bulldog fans, you were awesome. They kind of took over this crowd in about second quarter of the ball game. You could hear the defensive and maroon and white chants, and the Aggie fans were just kind of sitting there letting it all happen. It's just one of those things.
No, we were maroon and white too. I mean,
well, to be fair, but it's one of those things too, David. Mississippi State had a script: come out, start quickly, don't have to chase the game, don't get behind in the first quarter. We talked about how important that was, David. Don't make a silly turnover. You had the bad luck turnover. Your defense bails you out. But what happened is State went out there and checked all the boxes. They didn't panic when they had some adversity. They found the ground game. We expected they would. We talked about that in pregame, David. But more importantly, Nick Fitzgerald was a great caretaker of this offense tonight and didn't make the big mistake.
No, his one mistake really was a deflected ball.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, what can you say about that one? He comes back, makes some plays. Now, he admitted his touchdown pass to Jordan Thomas. He thought he'd overthrown it because it was all of a sudden, hey, he's wide open over there. I got to get the ball to him. He played a very efficient ball game. He did what he had to do. I thought one of the best called plays was there in the second quarter where State on 3rd and 2 ran a pass play where if there's a block made, just a standard executed block, then all of a sudden State probably could take a 21-0 lead there in the first half. As it turned out, 14-0 was enough. I think if there was a turning point for this offense, it came immediately when they bounced back from that interception play, a 16-play, 86-yard drive with, I think, one negative play. They bounced back from it. Fitzgerald showed some creativity, as Coach Dan Mullen said, but Harris Williams, Nick Gibson, Fitzgerald, the offensive line did their jobs, made plays, and really kind of, I think they threw A&M's offense off their game because they're sitting on the sidelines watching this steady grinding down.
That's true, David. And I thought Todd Grantham did a great job mixing up the blitz packages and then playing some zone behind it. And then what happened is, Kellen Mond forced some balls in there, and Bulldog defenders got their hands on them. But, David, the big play, the big blow, was the 45-yard run from Nick Fitzgerald just before the half. You could just kind of get a sense the game was settling in, and A&M wanted to get in the locker room down a score. And then when Nick breaks that one, this crowd almost turned on the Aggies. It was just one of those things they're just like, this is the worst thing that could happen. And then State makes them pay for it. And then you come back with another strong defensive effort. And that's really the story of the night, David, is Mississippi State's ability to run the football, but also defensively, they have not played better this year.
Yeah, talking briefly about the offense again, that touchdown pass before halftime to Donald Gray, it got a little banged up on the punt return ensuing from that, but it was a growing pull, and he came back and played the last couple plays of the game, so he was fine out there. But he got inside his man. The key to that, though, Nick Fitzgerald had all the time he needed to throw. He was sacked twice, but one of those, he just held on to it too long. It was a situation where the Bulldog blocking could not have been better in both the run game and the pass game, and this is against a pretty aggressive Aggie defense. And by the way, yes, that's Ron Cooper, who was coaching the A&M secondary. Mississippi State was able to take advantage of that with some downfield passes as well.
That's true, David. And you're talking about the offensive line. Greg Allen, what can we say about him? This is a guy that was expected to be a two-deeper this year and play some mop-up duty perhaps, non-conference. And here he is on the road in Kyle Field, one of the loudest football venues in the world, playing left tackle and holding his own and doing a good job. And quite frankly, David, you mentioned those sacks. One of them kind of held on. Another one was almost a run type thing. He was outside the pocket, but that's not a slight of this offensive line that went out and rushed against this team. And we expected that they would. But the pass pro was the real rub, David. We just knew A&M, the number one pass rushing team in the country, State third, tied for second, I guess. That number won't drop a whole lot. But this group grew up tonight, and you got to feel really good about their prospects down the stretch. Some good early catches by Jesse Jackson, kind of set a little tone out there. Then State was able to work off him, go to Reggie Todd, and then go to the tight ends, make things happen there. And speaking, you talked about Greg Allen. Let's give Stuart Reese a mention, too. State's first touchdown, he got to the second level and took out the linebacker, which allowed Nick Fitzgerald to score that first touchdown. That's a guy who's had his troubles in SEC games, false starts, offsides, jumping the gun, things like that. He played under control, didn't get rattled. He did the job, too, like the whole offensive line did. Receivers made tough catches. Running backs, Nick Gibson, he ran like a man possessed tonight. And, of course, Aris Williams, what can you say? He did what Aris Williams does. Now, let's get back to the defense side of the ball. That defensive line effort, Montez Sweat had a monster night. I asked Montez if by the third quarter he thought Kellen Mond was hearing footsteps. He said definitely. He said the guy was getting rid of it, even when he didn't have to get rid of it, because he had been so beaten up in the first two quarters. That's true, and that's Montez Sweat is coming into his own. We mentioned before, Pernell McPhee, it kind of took him a year, and perhaps because of the fact that Montez Sweat has played Power 5 football before, maybe he only needed half a year to kind of get acclimated, but he's had a sack, I guess, in 4 straight games now. He is a guy that's really becoming a terror. And even Kevin Sumlin said this week they wanted him. They wanted him to come in here and replace Myles Garrett, but yet he's wearing the right shade of maroon and white. And this is a guy that is becoming the player we all hoped he would be. Mississippi State struggled last year to really generate a pass rush without a lot of blitz packaging, but now this athletic front that you have with Jeff Simmons, who they basically dominated his guy the whole night long, they dictated terms to the Aggie offense, and I think that showed in the final score. And the secondary benefited from that great pass rush, great contained by the linebackers who allowed them to do their jobs. And of course, that's two. I was talking to Mark McLaurin. He said they practice tip drill every Thursday in every pregame. He said today turned into tip drill because the first 2 interceptions were hit by the receiver, batted by another defender, and then picked off on the carom like that and turned into touchdowns quickly by the offense. And then, of course, Jamal Peters got out there and showed his athleticism. He's still got so much work to do as a coverage cornerback, but put the ball in his hands and you see what he can do. And, boy, he was spoon-fed that one for the icing touchdown. Yeah, he jumped the route. As a matter of fact, I was locked on him on the camera the whole way. And you could see that was where they were having success kind of dumping off in the slant there, and he read it, picked it off, and it was really smooth sailing. I know a Aggie receiver gave chase for 30, 40 yards, but there was no catching Jamal Peters. Lashard Dirk comes up with a big pick tonight, and at a very opportune moment too, David, because you kind of got a sense that the Aggies were trying to creep back into the ball game, and they just made a big play, and then lo and behold, what happens is Dirk gets one. But, David, I'll tell you, the biggest chore of the night, and it's been something the Bulldog teams have struggled with, maintaining and containing Christian Kirk. Right. He has been an absolute Bulldog killer, and now he's 1-2 against State. But the State defense and special teams, and the strategy clearly was the short punts to kind of get the long roll. They did not allow him to impact the game, even though Logan Cook had to make a tackle on the sidelines late. That's if that was on the list of things to do, the Bulldogs marked that one off pretty early. And we also found out that Nick Fitzgerald not only can punt, sort of, got a 14-yarder out of it, and I think he almost hit his own man in the process. I believe he did from that angle. He also, if you noticed, was in on the hands team at the end of the game to catch that onside kickoff by A&M. So it just proves that okay, how many places in the SEC are you going to put your all-conference candidate quarterback on the field for a hands team? That's the kind of trust and faith they have in a guy like Nick Fitzgerald to make tough plays like that. And you saw how quickly he got down. You could tell he had been given a code of conduct before he walked out there. But you're right, David. We're getting to see a lot of this Nick Fitzgerald guy and kind of see how versatile he could be. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Matt White, even though Matt's a much better punter than Fitz proved to be on that one. But maybe about a tenth of a second slower in the 40. Maybe. A lot more hair too. But that being said, there's just so much to be happy about tonight, David, because this is a ball game that a lot of people, including many Mississippi State fans, thought was going to be a real chore for the Bulldogs. Not to say that it wasn't a real battle, but State was the better team, and then they came here and proved on the Aggies' home turf. Now the final 4 games, 3 of those 4 are at home. One of those, of course, is Alabama. Right. But there's three other very manageable games there, and one's on the road at Arkansas, and that's a team that's kind of up and down. But this is a team now that could have a really special season, just 2 years removed from the Dak Prescott era being over. This team, with this win tonight, has put itself in position for some really big things.
Right. The Bulldogs did officially get bowl eligible tonight. Okay, we knew they were going to go bowling because you got UMass next week, 11 o'clock. Be there. Yes, I know it's early. Be there. Watch this team play and enjoy these guys as they develop and grow up. But now the Bulldogs know what bowl they're going. Know they're going bowling. Now it's a matter of determining what level of bowl they go to. You've got a November ahead. Chance to win your way all into one of those really good Florida bowls, whether Tampa, Orlando. You can start dreaming at this point. But everything is there for the Bulldogs to take because they broke that hex. They've won an SEC road game, and they've won their first game in this stadium, and for that matter, in this town since 1913. No, I was not there.
Smart guys.
What can I say? But having waited this long, I can now check off another stadium on my list. I've seen Mississippi State win at every SEC venue, past or present, with the exception of Georgia. And if we don't get 2029, I'll probably never make it there, but that's okay. They've won here in College Station in one of the truly big houses, marvelous stadium. Bulldog fans, you owe it to yourself sometime to come to a game at College Station. You need to see it. You need to experience the atmosphere. The fans are wonderful. They like us. They say howdy. It's been great here. But the Bulldogs did the most important thing. They won an SEC road game. They're now 6-2. They've evened their conference record. They've taken care of business. I'm sorry, 3-2 conference. That's right. After the Kentucky win, got a 3-game winning streak now going to the UMass game and setting up for November, where so much is there for the Bulldogs to be taking. So for our crew back home, I know Paul Jones is trying to put together a flash story real quickly. Mike Nemeth and Gene Swindoll were both in Jackson today covering Coach Andy Canizaro's team as they put on their scrimmages. So for Steve Robertson, this is David Murray from Kyle Field at College Station. Bulldogs win 35-14.